It's my pleasure to introduce Professor Janelle Yorke. We professor last time we came, Janelle. Had you just been 2 years? Many of you will know Janelle from various stuff that we've collaborated with in over, I think we've known each other about 7 years, haven't we? A chance meeting in Barcelona. And Janelle, a professor of cancer nursing at Christie's in Manchester, University of Manchester, but collaborated and continues to do with our organisation, the clinical service in the UK. And one of the things that we're still at with PH, and all the clever stuff that we've seen, really important though it still remains a condition with large burden of symptoms, problems to live with. And Janelle not only is someone who can identify a problem, and it's like the Annabelle of this. I'm going to compare it to Annabelle. And he said two things, didn't he, when he was trying to get through the mountains. We'll find a way, and if we can't find a way, we'll make a way, okay, to get through things. So it's quite a practical session, really. Janelle's come all the way from Sydney. Not today, though, is it? You've been here a while to settle in and things like that. So, Janelle, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ian, I think. You never quite know what to expect when Ian's introducing you, so there's always a slight level of anxiety. So yes, I do originally come from Sydney. I've been here for 13 years now in the UK. My mum thinks I sound like the Queen now. My British friends still think I sound Australian. Okay, so I've spoken to many of you in the audience about breathlessness. And I usually run a workshop at this conference, but today they wanted me on the main stage. So I hope you will still be able to be active as much as possible. And I've been told that my files were corrupted during the morning tea break, so we're hoping that they've all been put back into the right order. So what I'm going to do is, before I start talking about just a couple of tips to help manage your breathlessness, we'll just do a very basic overview of normal breathing and what happens when you become breathless. And then I've just got 3 top tips that I want to share with you. So I think you know, everyone in this room, that breathlessness is probably the most prominent symptom in PH alongside fatigue, but it's also a very common symptom of many other respiratory and conditions of the heart. So we've all experienced breathlessness at some point, whether you're running for a bus or running to get in first in the queue for a nice cup of tea. But I think that's a different context though, isn't it? Because we know that we can control that. If we stop running when we sit on the bus, a couple of nice big breaths and we can recover. But I think breathlessness in the context of when you're living with a long-term condition such as PH can actually be quite frightening, and patients also say very frustrating, because you don't know when or if it may come to an end. So people are often very worried about the impact that breathlessness might have on their daily activity, ability to still play with grandchildren or your own children. And it also, I think, has an impact on those closest around you, because they're also living with this condition. However, we may not be able to take the breathlessness away entirely, but we can work with you to help you to better control breathlessness and to live better with it, and to be able to manage your daily routine so that breathlessness has less of an impact on what you want to achieve in your daily life. So with normal breathing, we never really have to think about it, do we? But it's controlled in the brain stem center, which is often referred to as the respiratory center. Now, the respiratory center receives messages from all parts of your body telling it how active you are. It will then send out signals to increase or decrease the amount of breathing that you do, so that we get a match between the activity level that you're doing and the amount of oxygen that your body needs to achieve that. So whether you're talking, eating, walking, sleeping, sitting, running, these messages will get sent to the respiratory center, and your respiratory rate will either increase or decrease in both rate and depth. But this happens automatically. We don't really take notice of our breathing unless there's a problem, and we'll look at that on the next slide. But the main muscle of breathing is our diaphragm. It's that large dome-shaped muscle that lies under the surface of our rib cage. It's a big, strong muscle. It can work all day when we're breathing in and out with never really tiring. But we're not very good at using this muscle to its full potential. Especially when you are breathless, what we tend to do is forget about the diaphragm and our lower body, and we tend to focus up on the top end of our body, and I can see lots of nods going on, where we tighten our neck muscles, we tighten our shoulders, and we do lots of quick, deep breaths in an effort to draw more air in. But that's why many of you sitting here today have probably got really stiff and sore neck muscles and shoulder muscles. And again, lots of nods. And that's because we naturally tense up in an effort to draw more breath in, instead of making use of this lovely diaphragm muscle that can work all day, never really tires. So if everyone just wants to place their hands just under their rib cage, and I want you to try and do a big breath in that focuses on taking the breath from your waist. So let's just try, it doesn't matter if you use your nose or mouth, but just try and do a big breath in, and can you feel a muscle coming out and going down so your lungs can expand? That's a normal, controlled breath. Breathe out, please. Don't wait for me to tell you that. Okay, so we're going to practice that a bit more, but firstly, I just want to show you a clip that demonstrates normal breathing. Terry, thank you very much for allowing us to film you whilst you were taking your shirt off.
To understand breathing a bit better, we have a willing volunteer in Terry who's donated his body to medical science for the afternoon, and we're going to show you what happens on his body as he breathes in. So Terry, for the purpose of this, I need you to take your shirt off. And first of all, we're going to show you where your diaphragm is. This is a large band of muscle which helps control the breathing. It moves downwards as you breathe in and upwards as you breathe out. So we've got two lungs. When you've breathed out, are about that size. And now when you take a deep breath in, the lungs expand in size so that you can have more oxygen in them.
Okay, so I did try and convince Ian to do a live demonstration on that one, but he thought the whistles from the audience would be too distracting. Yeah, go on. So I wanted to show you that clip because can you see the potential of that large muscle when you put it to good use, and how much extra expansion you can get from the lower lungs when breathing. So just try and remember that. Rather than focusing on the top of your lungs, trying to get air right down into the bottom of your lungs, and we'll do a technique to help you with that in a minute. So what causes breathlessness? And Professor Paul Corris has already mentioned some of the specifics for the causes of breathlessness in pulmonary hypertension. But this is some of the, some of the most common causes of breathlessness. And I have general illness and weight loss up there because obviously with losing weight and being generally unwell, you can get muscle wasting. And of course that can affect the energy that you have when you're breathing as well. So what happens if you have a problem with your lungs is that the brain will sense that there's a mismatch between the demand of your body, the activity that your body is doing, and the amount of oxygen and breathing that you're able to respond to with that. But interestingly, the part of the brain that is stimulated when we are short of breath, experiencing breathlessness, is the same part of the brain where we also think and interpret different experiences. So you can see why breathlessness and anxiety can be are quite linked, because the same areas of the brain light up when you're experiencing breathlessness and anxiety. It's the same area of the brain that lights up when you experience pain as well. So that's why when we teach techniques about how to help manage breathlessness, relaxation and coping mechanisms for anxiety are normally at the top of the list of what we teach you. Okay, and I'm not going to talk about relaxation today though. So the first top tip I want to give you for breathing more easily is this breathing from your tummy and using this diaphragm muscle. So this type of breathing is also called diaphragmatic breathing. And here's a clip to demonstrate
So
this.
when breathless, you're more likely to breathe using your upper chest and your shoulder muscles. This can make you tire more easily, and it can also make your muscles quite tense and sore.
Okay.
So we're going to look at a technique now that allows you to use your diaphragm. So it helps to transfer the work of breathing from your upper body to your diaphragm muscle, which is much bigger and able to cope with the effort of breathing. So if you place your hands on your tummy, just above your belly button or below your ribs, and if you just give a little cough, that muscle that you felt move is your diaphragm, so that's what we're focusing on. So now, as you take a breath in through your nose, allow your tummy to swell. And as you breathe out, allow your tummy to relax and feel your hands go back down. Okay?
Okay.
So shall we try that again?
Yeah.
So as you breathe in, allow your tummy to swell. And as you breathe out, relax and let your tummy fall. So try and get a sense of breathing from around your waist rather than in your upper chest. How does that feel?
Definitely feels different when you're doing it correctly.
Yes, and that's why it's so important to practice this technique while you're not too breathless.
Yeah.
And then you're better able to use the technique more effectively when you have an episode of severe breathlessness.
Okay, so that last point is really important. It's really important with all the different techniques to help manage breathlessness that you try and practice them as often as you can when you're feeling okay, so that if you start to have an increased experience of breathlessness or an episode of anxiety, you're better able to then implement the different techniques that you've learnt. So can we have a practice now at doing that diaphragmatic breathing? So just get nice and comfortable in your chairs. Try and sit up straight. You can stand up if you're more comfortable doing that. And really important is to try and just relax those muscles in your neck and in your shoulders. And then place your hands on your tummy. And we're all friends here, so no one worry about having to push your tummy out. So when you breathe in, try and pull your tummy out. So get that breath right in around your tummy area. So can you feel your hands rising where they're placed on your tummy? Don't worry if you're not too good at this technique initially, it does take quite a bit of practice. So let's just have a go of breathing in and try and push those hands out. And
To
again,
breathe using
breath in. And out. Okay? So when you're practicing these techniques, try and have your exhalation a little bit longer than what you breathe in, because again, what we do when we're quite anxious and feeling breathless is that we'll focus on the in-breath of trying to get that air in. But if you can focus on exhaling slowly and controlled way, then it allows your lungs to empty so that when you take your next breath in, your lungs can expand fully, like the video with Terry. Okay? Right, the next top tip is using the handheld fan, and I've given a couple of these out in the audience. Now, this is a technique that whenever I show patients this and my colleagues show patients this, they think it is the best thing that they've ever had to help manage their breathlessness. So I think we all know that when we're feeling hot and bothered, you're feeling anxious, quite often the first thing we do is open a window and we want to get to the fresh air. And that normally allows us to take a big breath in, and it normally calms us and slows us down. So using the handheld fan for when you're having an episode of breathlessness is a very cheap method and a very easy and quick method of getting a cool flow of air across your face. And what this does is it stimulates the temperature receptors in our nose and in our mouth, and it helps to slow our breathing down. So who's got the fans? Right, okay, so I just want to show you a clip. The ones that you have in the audience, Ian would only let me buy the cheap ones for today, and they only have one speed option on them, but you can actually buy other ones that have 2 or 3 different speeds on them. But let's just have a look at a
Many
clip.
people with breathlessness have found that a cool draft of air helps to reduce the feeling of breathlessness. This works by cooling the air that goes in through your nose, and receptors in your nose send a message to your brain that decrease the feeling of breathlessness. The advantage of a handheld fan is that you can take it with you wherever you go. You can keep it in your pocket or your handbag. So when you experience an episode of breathlessness, get into a comfortable position. Hold the fan approximately 6 inches from your face and aim for the flow of air towards the central part of your face so you can feel the cool air on either side of your nose and on your top lip.
Okay, so do people with a fan want to just have a feel of that? Oh, someone's just mouthed, it's lovely. So what's a really good technique? If you've done something, you've gone up a flight of stairs and you're feeling really out of breath, is to get that handheld fan out, and if there's no seat for you to sit on, lean against the wall, because that will enable you to relax your shoulder muscles, and try and do that diaphragmatic tummy breathing that we've just been through while you have the handheld fan in front of your face. And many people will comment that that really takes the panic and that acute moment of breathlessness away quite quickly. So the fans are just being passed through there. Do we have a roaming mic? Is there a roaming mic? Is there anyone in the audience that uses the fan? I've spoken to a couple of people that might just like to pass comment. We've got a lady just down here at the front. Yes, is that okay?
I do use
Do you want to use the microphone?
I do use them now and again, especially in the hot weather, and I tend to get more breathless then. But then they are very helpful.
Yep. Anyone else that'd like to comment? You'll need the fan in a minute.
I have 5 of them because my dear friend here thought it would be a useful Christmas present. And the one in the car is really useful because once it starts to get hot, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic, and thank you.
So do you keep a fan all around the house whether you might need it so you have easy access? I know some people carry it on a piece of string, something around their neck if they know they're going to be doing activity where they'll get breathless. So they just have to get the fan. It's right there in front of them. They can recover from the breathlessness and then carry on with the activity that they're doing. Okay, great, thank you. Now, the last tip isn't about breathing as such, but I just want to share with how you can get out of a chair more easily without using lots of energy. Because obviously if you're using lots of energy, then that can actually lead to an episode of breathlessness as well. So what we tend to do when we're getting out of a chair, we're normally in a hurry, especially if the phone's ringing or something, is that we will not think about it again and just push down like this, and again, use this upper body to stand up. So I now want to show you a technique on another clip, and thank you, Pauline, for sharing this one with us, on how you can conserve your energy when you're getting out of a chair. Okay, because it's probably something we do about 20 times a day, if you add it all up. So that's 20 times a day, where if you get out of a chair effectively, you could save your energy for something else.
Moving from a sitting position in a chair can be quite difficult. Most of us tend to get out of a chair by pushing down on our arms to lift our body up.
Hello? Yeah.
Most of us probably also hold our breath and tighten all of our muscles as we stand. And this can make getting out of a chair much more difficult than what it has to be.
How are you? Oh, that's good. Yeah.
So let's take a look at a more controlled and easier way to go from sitting to standing. Take a couple of breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. Move as close to the edge of the chair as you can. Place your hands on your thighs, either towards your knees or up closer towards your hips. Take another breath in through your nose, and as you push down with your hands onto your thighs, exhale as you stand up. The trick here is to use your legs to push up instead of your upper body.
Okay, so there's 2 important things to remember with this technique. 3 actually, because we should always wiggle our bottoms to the edge of the chair. Place our hands on our thighs rather than putting them down on our side where we have to use a lot more energy. And when you're getting up, so when you're exerting the effort, rather than holding our breath, which is what most of us do when we're about to exert effort, you blow out. So you blow as you go. And I know that's a familiar saying with many people who have met me before here. You blow as you go. So when you're ready to exert the effort, you take a breath in, and you blow as you go. How did that feel at the front? Good. So I'm not sure if the chairs are on wheels, because if they're on wheels, I don't want people to do a demonstration of this. Are they on wheels? They are. Right, stay in your seats, please, everyone. We're not going to do blow as you go, because you might end up on the stage with me. They're not. Okay, do you want to have a practice then? So everyone, wiggle your bottoms to the edge of the chair. Place your hands on your thighs. A breath in, and blow as you go to get up. Okay? Everyone's smiling, so obviously you didn't use too much energy for that. It works. It works. It's very simple. So do we have a buffet dinner tonight? Right. Well, there's a buffet dinner tonight, so I want to hear lots of blowing as you go when you get out of the chair. Okay? Right. I've got one final clip, which is the final words from two of my very dear colleagues who are sure they're in the room somewhere, about how to help manage your breathlessness.
Wendy, working with patients with pulmonary hypertension, one of the major symptoms they present with, for me, is breathlessness.
I think I'd agree with that. Most of the people that we see, their very first symptom that they actually go to see the doctors with is breathlessness.
And indeed, in my experience, breathlessness has a broad spectrum where some patients have breathlessness on minimal activity, while some patients, their breathlessness is so severe, it's breathlessness at rest.
And I think, yes, it's the whole scale. There are people who can only be breathless when they're perhaps walking up hills, and sometimes that's their first symptom, through to people that are breathless just talking.
And I think part of my role is to help manage that breathlessness. And I think drug therapies can be useful, but I think there's other interventions that can help. I find that goal setting with patients and also acknowledging activities with them that bring about breathlessness allows them to understand that we know that breathlessness exists.
And I think, and explain to them that breathlessness is a normal response to exercise, and to not stop exercising altogether to avoid breathlessness, but to be able to control it, to gradually increase the amount of exercise they can take, and to have techniques that they can manage their breathlessness.
When I talk to people with the symptom of breathlessness and pulmonary hypertension, we discuss means of how they can overcome it, looking at the activities they do, hopefully taking that one step further and building on it so that they increase their activity level and also take control of their breathlessness. That could be, for instance, when people with pulmonary hypertension are out shopping with friends, they may not be able to keep up with them. Often I'll advise them to do the window shopping approach to controlling their breathlessness, where they find that they're coming to a stage where they're thinking, I can't go on. It's the time to look into some shop window and take time to relieve their symptom.
And I'd agree with that. If you know that it's a good time of the day, that you've got more energy and you're going to be less breathless, planning your activities, and then also perhaps planning a rest time during the day as well. There's really sort of practical things that will help manage breathlessness.
I find with some of the people, they get a lot of anxiety about their breathlessness. And in that respect, I think we need to encourage them to use other techniques, such as relaxation techniques.
I think that's really important because it's the same centre in the brain that recognises anxiety as recognises breathlessness, and the two are often very linked.
Taking control of your breathlessness and learning techniques such as relaxation techniques are really important for people with pulmonary hypertension when they pursue simple activities such as washing, dressing, and even going to the bathroom, which sometimes can make them very anxious and very frightened. And that just makes their breathlessness even worse.
I think if you learn techniques to be able to cope with that, then you can take some control over your disease and hopefully improve quality of life and exercise tolerance.
Okay, that's it. Okay. So I hope those tips have been helpful, and I look forward to you putting some of them in action later tonight. Thanks very much.